Happy Father's Day to you. Jacob, doing anything special?
Mm-hmm. Oh, not really.
Not today.
Yes.
I go to the poultry and they buy a big fowl and prepare soup down for him.
Oh, great.
That is his Happy Father's Day.
Okay. Oh, that's special.
That will be his dinner for tonight.
Let's see, here's Darlena.
How you doing?
How are you, Darlena?
I'm not feeling good. I miss y'all.
You're not feeling good.
No.
Sorry to hear that. Let's see. Oh boy, is that clock right? Yeah. Seemed like a late service then. Okay. Oh, go ahead there. Take up 3 seats.
Happy Father's Day, Mr. Allen.
Thank you, Darlena.
Hi, Darlena.
Hi, everybody.
And this.
And everybody, you guys, happy Father's Day.
Thank
All
you.
my brothers there.
Let's see.
What? 21-year-old Navy. Active duty.
Oh,
Hey, welcome.
That's what we're talking.
Good to see you again.
this thing is cool.
Yeah, he's been here.
It's looking like a bowl.
How's your son? Is he,
He's good. He just called me because he's supposed to go back to Mediterranean this month.
oh boy.
But he said he got some kind of promotion. Passed another test.
Okay.
So he doesn't have to go back. I don't know, maybe September, something
Okay.
like that. He had a 4-year tour in Spain. He's done 2.
Oh, wow.
So half the time in Spain, half the time in the Mediterranean. So
He's in Barcelona now? or-
yeah, not Barcelona. It's near Seville, actually.
Oh, okay.
Well, it's like 105 degrees. My daughter learned from it.
Okay.
There you go. So anyway, he's not going back to the Mediterranean for me. So you're at,
Is he officer or enlisted?
he's enlisted.
Okay.
Yeah. What are you? The officer?
Oh, I'm enlisted.
You're enlisted? Okay. He's talked about being an officer, but it's a lot of work. And he's always working some other extra job. You don't have time to go back to school. So 20 years, how long you gonna stay?
This will be probably the last 3 years, and then I'm retiring. Me and my family gonna be moving back to our hometown of Nashville, Tennessee.
Oh, you're gonna be moving back there? Okay. Oh, okay. Well, that's a good career. I had to tell my son.
So,
How you doing, Barbara?
20 in the Navy,
yeah,
yes.
20 right now, but 21 years in September.
Oh,
You're
hi,
not old
Darlene.
enough
I'm
for
sorry.
that.
Hi, Darlene.
I miss you. How your daughter doing?
Oh, she's good. She's
The
good.
one where I went to.
Yeah. Yeah, she's been, they're good. Let's see, they've been married now, 12 years? Yeah, 12 years ago. That's the last time you saw her? Okay.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I know. So it's fast. How you been feeling?
I don't feel good this morning. My whole body hurt.
Okay, well, we're gonna, yeah, we got another one like that here. Whole body hurt. But anyway,
Mhm.
we'll keep you in prayer. You pray for us too.
Thank you.
Well, I guess we could begin it.
11 o'clock.
Past 11 o'clock, I
Oh,
think.
okay, I'm sorry, I was just talking just.
Now we have
That's
to make
okay.
up that 5 to 6 minutes, right?
What's that?
I said we have to make up that.
Okay, we'll see if we can do that. You want to shut that door and that door, Jane, just so we don't disturb the people out there.
There are no people out there, they must have gone somewhere.
Oh, really? Well, anyway,
Yeah.
we've been looking at the books of the Old Testament and a kind of a survey. And we have been looking at Genesis, the beginning, Exodus, actually we're in that now, the book about moving out of Egypt, God's care for his people. And we were on the next to the last question on our sheet here. Anybody didn't get a sheet of Exodus? Or wants one? Okay, sure. Okay. So we've been looking at some questions that kind of talk about what the meaning of these books is in the context of our lives as Christians, and how some of the things in these Old Testament books foreshadow things that are coming in the New Testament. But anyway, we were down to about the last question, number 14. We're talking about how God led the people of Israel. A pillar of fire by night and a pillar of cloud by day told the Israelites in their wandering in the wilderness when to break camp, where to go, when to set up camp. Not necessarily, they weren't moving every day over 40-year period, but sometimes they did. We're told later in many of these camps that they set up. And we just asked the question, how does God lead us today? And we talked about it. We need to be in prayer to God for leadership. And we need to be looking for God's leadership. So often when we make decisions, they're based upon, what's good for me. Where am I going to make the most money? Where am I going to be happiest? We always need to ask the question, where does God want me to be? Maybe we could get a job in another city, but where am I best going to be able to serve God? So that's a question that we always need to ask ourselves. Some of us stay in one place. Other people move a lot. But we all need to ask that question and pray to God for an answer. Sometimes his leadership comes through other people who will, want us to do something or want us to come somewhere or want us to serve in a particular way. Sometimes maybe it's something we hear in a sermon or a class or some other place that's God leading us. I don't know, any others come to mind? We won't.
Ultimately, we live by Christ, What comes to mind is Matthew chapter 28 and verse 19 says, actually go back to verse 18, I believe it says, all authority is given unto me in heaven and
Right.
earth.
Right.
So when I think about that, it's, time past, they were able to see the pillar of cloud. They were able to see the pillar of fire, but we see Christ through the word of God.
We see through the word, sure. That's a good point too. Study of the word can help us to make a decision sometimes where we want to be, what we want to be doing for God. I have to close with an illustration. Sometimes there's two roads open to us. And I believe that sometimes God can work with us whichever one we choose. So it's not as if we make one choice, we're saved and one we're lost. Sometimes that's the case, but sometimes there's different ways in which we can serve God. I have to tell you, I had a faithful minister once told me when he faces a difficult choice like that, where either way looks like he can be a good servant of God, sometimes he flips a coin, he said. Praise to God to lead him in the right way. But he flipped, I don't know if that's a good thing or not, but if you rely upon God's leadership, maybe that works. In the case of Israel, we're going to read in the next book. Well, actually, in Exodus, they created something that the high priest wore, called the Urim and the Thummim. What we can tell, these were jewels that they wore on a big vest, and they could consult those in some way and find out what God wanted them to do. So, anyway,
sometimes this last week we saw where God, the people of Israel, when they came to, before reaching the Sinai, they ordered Aaron to make a monument for them to worship.
yes.
Since last week, I was thinking about it. Are they wrong of what they did? Why am I asking this question? Or why this thing come to my mind? Because they feel like worshiping. But as a human being, formally, things that God himself posed to them, people to worship, he always gives some image for them to follow. Then, okay, this pressure that the people put on Aaron to make a homage for them to worship, whom did they want to worship? They said they want to worship God through that. They feel happiness of jumping, dancing, because they are worshiping God, good God. But I think the God we are worshiping is so jealous. Our God is so jealous. Jealous God as he is. So he don't want you to do something different, or do something by yourself, thinking that I want to do something to praise him. He wants the directive come from him.
Okay.
So that you can follow.
Yes.
This is what I'm thinking. Because after all, when they make the monument and praising the monument through that we are saying God, at the end of the day, when Moses comes, God gave a pattern for whatever they should do.
Right. Right.
You see, a pattern of whatever they should do. That means I am the one who gives that directive for you to follow. It's not your own will or idea. You see, because when you see the chapter 23, it says, no other gods.
Yeah.
God knows there is other gods that you can worship, but he don't want you to worship other gods. Anything that you go aside and do with your own mind become other God. Follow what I put down for you. That means you are following my rights, if I'm not mistaken. So our God is so jealous that now he wants us to see him through whom? Jesus Christ. Without Jesus, nothing else.
Yeah.
Without Jesus, nothing else. This is the problem the world is having between the Muslims and then the Christians. Because the Muslims, if you argue with a Muslim up to some things, at the end of the day, he will say that we are all worshiping the same
Yeah, that's what they said then,
God.
at the end.
That is how they end it.
But it's
When
not
you
true.
push them, at the end of the day, they say we are all worshiping
Yeah.
the same God.
But that's not true.
That's it. And that's not true. But for him, that's how he sees.
Yeah.
You see, because we say, without Christ, you have no life. And he said, without through or the Muhammad, there is no life. Last month, not last month, this very month, when they went to Makkah, 7 people died from Ghana who went to Makkah.
Oh,
Yes, they died there and were buried there. This very month. And I said, what is all this? You go and then you walking through this, and the people collapse and die.
well, we worship a God who gave his son for us. And that's a different relationship, a different love than just a God who may send a prophet.
And our God is still alive.
That's right.
Muhammad is dead, and Buddha is dead,
Christ lives.
he's alive.
That's right. Lives within us. So, yeah, thank you for that. One more question. What I was going to say is that Exodus and Leviticus both contain a lot of words about commands that exactly how God wanted them to worship. We talked about the building of the tabernacle. That's where their worship was focused. It had to be exactly like the pattern in heaven. Leviticus gives us chapter after chapter of exactly how to make offerings, when to make offerings, how to deal with situations in life, what to eat, what you shouldn't eat. So those are instructions that were designed to cause people to think about doing whatever God said. Unfortunately, they didn't do that. And it led to some bad consequences. I'm sorry. Yes, sir.
When I look at Leviticus, I think of, I connect it with life. Because it's like, but it's not, like as we know in Christ, but it's just their livelihood.
Yes.
It's everything that time his children need to know about life. Like, like you were saying, is what they should teach their children how to eat, how to pray, how to, interact with the priests and the offerings and all those things. It's strictly about their lifestyle. And it was a lot. And so that's why it was hard for them to keep it. So, and that's why we are truly blessed to have Christ, because he made things so much more simple. But we still have that same commitment.
That's true. But you raised the point, Jay. God is a jealous God, and he wants it done his way, not because he's selfish, but he knows that's what's best for us.
Alan, I have a question. The reason they were in the wilderness for 40 years, for 40 years were they disobedient all those times? And that's the reason why.
Well, they had to wander because the big reason was the golden calf, that they, God saved them and brought them out of Egypt, and they turned away right away. Lack of faith. Yes.
I was going to say the golden calf was the first part of it. It's like, but when God told him, he sent the spies into the land. Joshua and Caleb. were the only ones that came back with good
Yeah.
report. Everybody else came back like, these are some giants.
Yeah,
There's everything going on over here right
That's
now.
right.
And it's right. We don't think we can take this land. And they doubted God. They didn't have faith. And because they didn't have faith, they had to wander around in the wilderness and everything for 40 years. That's a huge time span. And it's a power for us like we need to have faith in God, not doubt God.
Yeah.
God says you can do something. We need to just jump at it and know that we can do it. But if we doubt God, we end up like Israel, wondering for a long
So that
time.
generation died.
Had to get
Those
rid of
adults,
yeah.
all of
They
those
didn't even
people,
make it.
all of those people from 20 years of old age and up.
Except
God
I-
said, I'll deal with a different generation.
Yeah.
God will get his work done. And it's just for us to make sure that we're a part of his plan. We don't want him to say, I can't deal with you. I've got to deal with someone else. Sometimes we think God needs us. He doesn't need us, but we need God.
It's an opportunity for us.
Anyway, I just thought I'd ask, final, any other thoughts on that? How long did the Israelites live in Egypt?
400 years, right?
400 years. It's an interesting concept because, well, let's turn to, let's see, Genesis chapter 15, starting at verse 13. This is a question that's caused some trouble over time, and that's why I put it in there. There's been a lot of debate and writing about this question. This is the promise to Abraham and the prediction, the prophecy to Abraham. As the sun was setting, Abraham fell into a deep sleep, and a thick and dreadful darkness came over him. Then the Lord said to him, know for certain that your descendants will be strangers in a country not their own, and they will be enslaved and mistreated 400 years. But I will punish the nation they serve as slaves, and afterward they will come out with great possessions. You, however, will go to your fathers in peace and be buried at a good old age. In the fourth generation, your descendants will come back here, for the sin of the Amorites has not yet reached its full measure. So that says something about 400 years. The problem for some is because it says the fourth generation. Usually there's more generations in 400 years. But we looked earlier, these were longer generations. How many souls, put it that way, how many people went down into Egypt?
Like 70.
70 is what we're told in Genesis. How many people came out?
It said 1 million.
2 to 3 million men.
Well, it was
600,000.
603,000, according to the book of Numbers. 603,000 men of military age, say 20 to 50. So that meant there was a lot of women, there were children, there were younger people. That didn't even count the Levites who were separate. So probably we could extrapolate to 2 to 3 million people.
Old people too.
Older people, yeah. Maybe a group of people, I've always said, equal to the population of the city of Chicago. Can you imagine moving with that number of people if you travel out to
Together?
Chicago?
Yeah.
But so they reproduced from 70 people to 603,000 men. And we can see, well, that may take 400 years, even if they have a lot of children. But it was still 4 generations, because Levi, Kohath, Amram, and Moses, in the 4th generation, they come out. I'm just mentioning that because some people say, how could that happen in 4 generations? Also, when in Exodus, when the Pharaoh wants to get rid of all of the baby boy Israelites, he calls the midwives in. How many are there? 2. You'd think there might be more midwives for 400,000.
Well, I was thinking what they told them, the women are so lively, they have babies before we come. That may be true, for a lot of them.
Okay.
They just had a baby and they just come take the baby out.
And anyway, some people speculate the 400 years started not when Levi went in, but started when Abraham and Isaac were in the land of Canaan. And so their sojourn was in a foreign land but this is pretty specific, that your descendants will be strangers in a country not their own, and they will be enslaved and mistreated 400 years. We don't really see that Isaac and Jacob were slaves and mistreated. So I think the 400 is the time in Egypt, and in Exodus.
Those are the promises made before the Israel went to Egypt, isn't it?
In Egypt, that's what he was saying.
Could you start
Not
with,
Exodus.
That's what the Bible is saying. It's the
Oh,
promises made from God before they went to Egypt.
before they went to Egypt?
Yes.
Okay,
They were what? They were strangers?
Genesis 15, yes. Your descendants will be as strangers in the foreign land for 400 years. Those promises were made before they went to Jacob. Jacob's descendants went to
yeah,
Egypt.
the promise was made.
Good.
Yeah.
So sometimes when you sit down and you want to analyze God, you will not understand Him. I don't know if you the way you think the way I'm thinking, because He promised your descendants will be in that foreign land. How are they going to be there for? That kind of, how are they going to be there? Now, it passed through Joseph, a selling of Joseph. We today, we blame Joseph half-brothers for doing what? Evil. Selling Joseph to that slavery. Why God Himself promised the slavery before the thing happened?
Well, and if the 400 years is supposed to be the time that they were mistreated,
They
that
were
would have
actually-
to start maybe the time that Joseph dies, not when they get there immediately.
Yeah.
Because initially they weren't mistreated.
well, he was.
Mm.
I mean, he's like the first.
That's a
Okay,
good.
we count that.
Did that happen almost immediately, or
They all
were
were
they
born
everybody in
Yeah, he was so.
dealing friendly for a while?
Exodus chapter 1, verse 9, I think, or 8 actually, starts, it says, "Now there arose a new king over Egypt who did not know Joseph."
Yeah, the Pharaoh that don't know Joseph.
And that's when,
So the 400 years
How long did that take?
I mean, Joseph was mistreated.
well, I think the whole time that they were down in Egypt, that's like from the time they started in Egypt, with Joseph, that's what started the time frame of him being just in the physical place of Egypt. But in that process of staying there came a king who did not know Joseph.
Right.
And then they were, and that's when that other part of the prophecy was fulfilled, as far as like him being tortured and enslaved and everything like that. So,
What, excuse, I didn't enter your listen. What we Christian, I want us to think is the God that we are serving today. If you go through all this thing, I said, He promises. When God promised the thing, not that the thing is happening, that He said it. He promised that this is what going to be happening to your descendants, telling Abraham, to your descendants, this is what is going to be happy. But how are they going to get there? He didn't say it. Either somebody will betray their brother to that place to encounter this kind of situation. He didn't say it. When Jesus Christ will be betrayed, the Bible promises he will be born and he will be betrayed. Whoever will betray Jesus, the Bible didn't say it. But truly, it will pass through somebody to betray Jesus. To do that. But we as a human mother, how we are, I'm just focusing on something that we've quickly judged the situation. And so that you are evil because you betrayed him to that situation. But God is up there saying it and saying, yes, he have to do it because I promised that that thing should happen. If you didn't betray him, how my promise going to be fulfilled? I don't know what I'm getting. You are getting me right.
Are you trying to say that it wasn't bad that they did to him?
Bad they did to who?
To Joseph. What are you saying?
Before us is bad. That shouldn't happen between us as a brothers.
But I'm just saying that those brothers, you said that was not wrong.
No, it's wrong.
Okay,
You
that's all.
cannot say it's right.
Okay,
It's wrong.
okay, 'cause we have to
But
talk.
do we intend that God is judging them that what they did? Is God judging them? We don't know. I don't know. If you
Whether,
understand,
you're saying whether the Joseph's brothers
Brothers.
are saved or not. We don't know.
we don't know.
Oh.
Why? Because God promised that that must be the situation
They
for
did
them
some
to be
bad
in
things.
slavery.
On the other hand, these people, evidently the family was worshiping Jehovah.
Jehovah, you see.
Because
Because everybody would like, sometimes when I said, those, I call them my children. If they didn't, sell Joseph on that, whatever happened in, what do you call it, Missouri, would be in Canaan land. Rather, that blessing will be in Canaan land. But God want them to be in slavery as he promised. So it must come true.
God worked it out so that sometimes bad plans, God can use those and accomplish his will.
Thank you.
That's what Joseph said.
Bad plan. But God will use that bad plan
Right.
for good things come out from
That
it.
he knows ahead
But
anyway.
we as a human, we will crush that bad plan. The one who did that bad plan is nothing before us again. We will quick to judge him. But the situation, the promise that God promised, somebody must do something like that to fulfill God's promise.
God just used it that way. He could have done it other ways. I'm just saying,
Yeah.
don't limit God. You know, he could have done other
But
things.
it would have been better if the brothers had not sold.
Yeah,
So
but
that-
better if they weren't wicked.
What about if
God
you come,
would
if you come-
accomplish his will some other way.
okay, when we come to today's Jesus Christ, what is going to happen? You promise he will betray. Isn't it? Jesus will betray. He said he will betray. Then how will you,
Yeah, you're right.
Access that.
Jesus was mistreated and was crucified, and still that was part of God's plan.
plan,
But it
plan.
says, woe to them that did
God uses the wicked to help do what he wants. They still wicked. Okay? He just used the wicked.
Right.
Are you trying to give Judas a little break? A lot of people like to give Judas a break.
Anyway,
Yeah, just because
I'm
some
just saying.
foretold, it doesn't mean that the people that fall in line with what was foretold have no responsibility for what happened.
right.
Yeah.
God didn't make them,
We're all
Right.
in it for everything we've done.
but he
We've been
knew what
foretold
was
what
gonna
we're
happen.
responsible. Yeah.
He used that.
Anyway, I just want to make a couple more points here before we move on. In Exodus, it says, the length of time the Israelite people lived in Egypt was 430 years. At the end of the 430 years, to the very day, all the Lord's divisions left Egypt because the Lord kept vigil that night to bring them out of Egypt. So the 400 years perhaps was a rounded number. Who else went with them? Sometimes we think, well, a mixed multitude went with them. Many other people who were probably enslaved in Egypt hung around and went with them, we're told. And just one more comment on that promise to Abraham. In the fourth generation, your descendants will come back here, for the sin of the Amorites has not yet reached its full measure. What does that mean? The Amorites is a general phrase for the Canaanites. In other words, God was not ready to bring about the invasion and basically the defeat and extermination of the Canaanites at this time. They got 400 years to repent, but they didn't. And so then the Israelites come 400 years later, and God uses them to, in a sense, wreak vengeance on the Canaanites for their idolatry. Unfortunately, the Israelites were to a certain extent infected by that idolatry, so that they also had to be judged later. Anyway, that's Exodus in a nutshell. Any other comments on there? We have Leviticus that comes next.
Actually,
Sure.
As we're studying like the lengths of time, 400, 430, looking at the time that between Abraham having Isaac, we see long lengths of time, but that encourages us to be patient with God. When God says he's going to do something, it may not be right away, but as long as we're patient with him,
Right.
it's going to come to light consistently.
Abraham was 100 years old when he had his son. Sarah was 90. Abraham lived then 75 years. He died at age 175. Isaac, 180 years. He had the longest of the patriarchs. Jacob, 147. Joseph, 110. The lifespan is generally coming down. And later on, we'll be about 70, 70, or 40. Anyway, Leviticus, who needs a question sheet on Leviticus? We pass on. We'll give one to John. One more, sure.
Linda?
Linda, did you get one?
You got this Linda from last week?
I think I had.
Leviticus.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Last
We've got I make a lot of them. So, Leviticus, these are the commands which the Lord commanded Moses for the children of Israel in Mount Sinai is our kind of a theme verse for this book. But how did the book of Leviticus get its name?
Something to do with the tribe of Levi
Yeah.
that were designated as the priests.
The priestly tribe, the tribe that was supposed to be especially close to God and to lead in the worship and to be on the Lord's side. Moses said one time said, "Who's on the Lord's side?" And the Levites gathered around.
Oh, yeah, when they had to go kill those people.
Yeah.
Levites.
That was his family, but not all were good. Anyway, but it's called Leviticus because that's the rules were given, and the Levites were to be instrumental in the sacrifices and in a sense enforcing the other rules and reminding the people of what to do. one of the main emphasis in the book of Leviticus, which is in the very early part of it, talks about offerings to God of different kinds. I'm trying to get to it here. In this version, the paragraphs are numbered. In fact, starts off the burnt offering, the grain offering, the fellowship offering, the sin offering, a lot of offerings. Some took place. What's being offered?
Usually it's supposed to be whatever it is that they're offering, it's the best.
Right,
The
Right.
preferred, Paul says here for the animals.
animals, yeah,
A male without defect.
yeah. The Lord knows the heart of men, that they would say, well, I'll give this sick animal to God and keep the good ones. I'll give the worst of the flock or something.
It's gonna burn it up.
But, so God said, no, none of that. It should be the best that we give to God. We don't offer animals. Now we offer of ourselves and of our earnings. It should be the best. But they also offered fowls, they offered meat, bread, grain, cakes, different things. And the first fruits of their harvest belong to God. What else belonged to God? The firstborn of the families belonged to God. Now they could redeem those by offering animals and grain and so on. But the general rule is the firstborn belong to God.
Yeah.
So, and we'll look at that. Did anybody ever offer their firstborn to God? Who was? So the best of everything was to be offered to God. And I can put here, what were the Urim and the Thummim? We talked about that. That's Leviticus chapter 8, verse 8. This was God's way, one way of guiding the people. These were part of the priestly garments, jewels in the shoulders used to foretell the future. I was going to just, we think of the offerings that the people made, jumping back to that, as something that was prescribed, and it was. They offered a lamb in the morning and in the evening. The morning and the evening sacrifice went on for centuries. And Daniel predicted a time when those would cease as being the time of the Messiah. But anyway, but so many of these offerings were not necessarily prescribed, but they were supposed to be voluntary. For instance, the burnt offering, a voluntary act of worship, atonement for unintentional sin, general expression of devotion to God. Grain offerings, very similar, voluntary act of worship. The fellowship offering, a voluntary act of worship, thanksgiving and fellowship, including communal meals. Sin offerings, this was more, if you sin, this was mandatory. You were supposed to make an offering, confess your sins and make an offering. guilt offering for sin. So there were a lot of offerings. So many of them were voluntary. I just feel like I want to give thanks to God. I wonder how often that happened. Later on in the scriptures, we're going to read that the Lord was upset because his rules were not followed. Anyway, let's talk more about that. But I just wanted to make the point that so many of these offerings, it wasn't automatic. Some were, but others were just to be to rely on people's hearts, to want to make an offering to God when something good happened. Oh boy, are we out of time? But Linda said we have 5.
Yeah, we do, because I was yakking with Darlene, so yeah.
I don't know, but maybe that's probably a good place.
But this turns off on its own.
No.
It's not time. Well, you see Michael always go over there.
He's obsessed with it, I don't know.
He really is.
We'll take it up there next time about Aaron's sons and some of the rules to be followed. Thank you for your thoughts and attention. Thank you, Darlene. We hope you feel better.
Thank you and happy Father's Day, everybody. Enjoy your day.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Enjoy.
happy Father's Day. Oh, dads.
Okay.
Good to see you all. I was tied up meeting people from Wyoming, the
Oh,
son
boy.
from Utah, that was the one that lived
Those
in front
people
of.
in front of us?
Yeah, he was in a race and they came through and
Oh,
then the lady named Jean was gonna come down here if the rest of her family was gonna let her, but then she didn't.
oh, boy.
And she's Arizona, so all these.
I'm
We
sorry.
had quite a few from Texas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good.
Behind me.
You get it with son, how you make man.
We got John.
Like you're-
Oh,
It's not like we can
So-
come every Sunday.
no class next
We
week.
can, we can come every Sunday.
And the week after that,
Huh?
She just asked you if you could come over.
Yeah.
away. So
Oh, okay.
Dan or we could contact Steve.
National Tennessee. Originally,
It's never around.
Well, he told me to get the paper, just in case.
He doesn't have to, you know,
Oh,
You-
okay.
Which is.
he wants to teach one lesson, that's great.
He's going back to Nashville, his family.
Oh.
Eventually, yes.
Okay.
3 years. It's all based on what the Lord says.
Oh,
Where are
okay.
you headed to today?
New York.
He might have y'all up here, I'm just saying.
You just kind of go.
There's a Victoria.
She picked the time.
No.
Busy time.
Then St. Louis is
Yeah, I
the
know. We'll
next.
be here next Sunday, Lord willing. Yeah, I didn't really need another trip right now, but she has 3 days off plus Juneteenth. She said, come on. So, it's the plan.
Gotta take advantage of
Good to
it.
be here.
Her availability. Actually, she's flying here Friday.
Oh.
She wants to do stuff in New York. They have a wedding, she and Tyler. So,
Did not
Friday.
help.
She's gonna see Dr. Odom. I had to make the appointment at noon on Friday, so we're gonna see her. And it's crazy, crazy. Gotta be adaptable.
Right, yeah.
Oh, boy.
Okay,
I guess we better.
it's me to get people out of the house. I'm gonna leave about 1:15.
I went too far. No, that's, not.
She's already behind.
What you mean? All right.
Days I never use, I don't tell my-
Let's see.
Use it, use it.